Alrighty, peace and welcome, ETM Hotep. Welcome to the Sesh Mighty Metal Netcher channel, aka the Sesh channel. This is your brother Ujahum Ib Iri Ma'at, and as promised yesterday, we are live, and we are gonna just jump into a Q&A open discussion. And so, if you notice the title of the video, it's about learning Egyptian hieroglyphic, Q&A open discussion. And so for those of you who missed the video from yesterday, our live stream from yesterday we went over a very basic overview of Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system. You know, the very basic in terms of how the actual writing system operates. And so if you missed out, definitely check out the videos from yesterday. And at the end of the video, we said that we would go live today to take any questions and have an open discussion. So for this live stream, I want to keep the home base discussion around the language, how it functions, how it works, any questions with that. And then, of course, we can venture off into the neighborhood a little bit if other questions may come up that's obviously related to ancient Egypt and its culture and things like that. But primarily, I want to keep it on the mechanics of the language, be it the writing system, the glyphs themselves, the grammar, how it works, anything that you may be wondering or have a question about. All right. And yesterday I took a quick poll of the chat to see who's interested in ancient Egypt, in its language, but also just haven't had time to actually learn about the language at all. So I saw a few people that were in that situation, and then there were people who are interested, but also have taken a next step and are trying to learn. So we have that group of people, and then we have people who are more seasoned veterans studying the culture of ancient Egypt, and they are studying the language in some form or fashion, whether taking courses or digging in and learning on their own. All right. And so another thing is that we announced that our courses are available. Our beginners course is available. It's open, and it's open. It's going to be open all year, and it's self-paced. So make sure you check that out, and we're going to post links up for you guys to learn more about that and sign up. All right. So allow me to introduce my co-host, Sanet Imiket Akuakinyi.
Hotepu Abedi. Yes, we are here today, and I'm just kind of, glad to see everyone that's already there and those who are going to come later. And hopefully, you guys watched the show from yesterday. Everything is time stamped, so it's going to be easy to locate all the important points that were spoken of during that session. And we'll do the same for all the other sessions in this particular series.
All right. All right. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today so far. So I'm going to give a shout out to everyone in the chat who's made themselves known so far. So I see we have first up is our good brother Zane. So peace and greetings. Teddy Wasir Ma'at Ra, peace and greetings. We have Infinite Minds, peace and greetings. And some of you all I haven't seen for a while. In case you're just tuning in and you're actually surprised that we're live, that's because we've taken, myself and Amicat, we've taken a hiatus of over a year and a half, kind of rounded up to 2 years that we've been MIA in terms of social media, YouTube and Facebook. So some of you may be tuning in and are actually shocked to see that we are live now. But again, greetings to you. And I haven't seen a few people in a long time. So hope everyone's are doing well. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone's health is great. All right. Greetings, peace, guys. We have brother David is in the building. Babylon Dunn, greetings. Timbuck 2.0, not just Timbuktu, but Timbuk 2.0 is in the building. Greetings, peace. Ramza, greetings, and peace. All right, so that's all I see so far in terms of who made themselves known. So again, greetings. And so today's discussion, again, it's an open discussion, Q&A. And if need be, I will post a link in the chat. So if you want to come on the panel and ask a question or have a discussion, if it's easier that way, then we can do that. All right. Just starting off, I'll just jump into some of the things that we went over yesterday. I do want to elaborate on a few things that we covered yesterday. So again, if you missed the show yesterday, definitely check it out. All right. But the way we're going to address things today, you should be able to follow along with what we're talking about. All right. So let me just expand my screen here. All right. So there are a couple of things that I want to elaborate on. And so yesterday, I gave an overview of how the writing system works, because when you're learning, well, first of all, let me back up. anyone who is interested enough in the ancient Egyptian culture, the only way that you're going to satisfy that interest and effectively get to know about the ancient Egyptian culture is through its language. And this is true for any culture that's not your own. So outside of your mother native culture, if you're studying anybody else's culture, you have to do so through the language. That's the only way to be effective and to have an intimate knowledge about that particular culture. So ancient Egypt is no different. And so this is why I am like headstrong and advocate that anyone who's interested in ancient Egypt, you have to study the language. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to take college courses and get a degree, a master's or PhD in the Egyptian language or linguistics or Egyptology. But you should gain a certain level of competency in the language so that you can analyze the culture, so you can learn the culture if that's your goal. And of course, what I'm saying is only for people interested in learning about the culture. If you're not, then disregard everything I just said. Okay. So, as I said yesterday, in your journey of learning about the language, the first thing you're going to have to learn as a beginner, the very first thing is you're going to have to learn how the writing system works. Okay. And learning the language in total, you're going to be learning two things at once. You have to learn how the writing system works, and then you have to learn about the language itself, okay, which includes its grammar. And grammar is the morphology and syntax of the language. And one can only say that they know a language when you are familiar with the grammar of the language. And when I say that in the past, some people will question me, as far as what do I mean by that statement. And it's the example I always give is that in sports, like if we take sports, you can't use the rules of baseball in a setting of basketball. So it's the rules of baseball that's one of the main things that make baseball what it is as a sport. Basketball has a certain set of rules that makes basketball as a game and sport. So with language, the rules of languages, of various different languages, is a primary element that makes the language what it is. All right. So saying that, you should see that one cannot truly say that they learn a language or know a language until you learn the grammar of that language. Just like you don't know how to play basketball if you don't know the rules of basketball. Yes, you can grab a ball and throw it towards the basket and sometimes make it in and sometimes not. But if you don't know the rules, you don't know that you can't double dribble, you can't walk, or what is walking, what is double dribbling, what is fouling, what are the boundaries of the court, where is the free throw line, how far the free throw line is, how high is the basket from the floor. All these different rules is what makes basketball basketball. You only got 3 seconds to stay inside the paint, as they say, where the 3-point line is, what's backcourt. If you dribble across half court and then go back, you violate it. All these things that make basketball what it is its governing rules. All right. And language is no different. So I hope that's clear with everyone. All right. So that's a very important point that I think people miss, is that knowing a language entails learning its grammar. Now, as far as yesterday, one of the things I covered yesterday was In learning about the hieroglyphic writing system itself, the glyphs themselves, just a very quick review. All of the glyphs, all of them are by nature, their very nature, are pictographs. So that answers the question, what are the hieroglyphs? What are they? And they're pictures. They're pictures of, I think this is the slide I have here. Here. What are they? And what they are depictions and pictures of the natural flora, fauna, and man-made objects that are indigenous to the Nile Valley corridor and the Delta, of course, the Delta and the Valley. All right, that's why you don't see tigers, glyphs, polar bears, glyphs, or whatever, because these are images that was familiar to the ancient Egyptians themselves. All right, in their surroundings, indigenous to that area on the continent of Africa. All right. So that's what the glyphs are. But now, what they are and how they function are different things. So yesterday I went over the three possible ways that any of these glyphs can function in any given instance of it being used. Okay. And so one of these ways is as a phonograph. Now, what beginners do, and it's perfectly normal. This is what pretty much everybody tends to do when they first learn about the Egyptian language, the writing system. Our first thought is to take the pictures for what they are. Okay, and because they're pictures and they're beautiful pictures and they're pictures of things that we're familiar with, our mind leans towards taking the pictures for their pictorial value. In other words, what you see is what you get. So if you see a picture of an elephant, you think our first thought is that elephant is mint. If we see it, an elephant is mint. A lion is mint. A crocodile is meant to be conveyed. A giraffe, an owl, or a water lily, as these examples show. Now, that would be true in its function as a pictograph, because a pictograph is trying to convey what you see. What you see is what you get. Okay, but that's not how the writing system works. Okay, so these pictures, although they're pictures of things, these pictures can function for the purpose of referring to sounds in the language, which have nothing to do with the pictures or what they're a picture of. And we refer to that use, when they're used that way, we refer to them as phonographs, from the word phone, which means sound, grapho, which means to write. So it's sound writing. And that's one of the biggest hurdles in all of my years of teaching the language. That's one of the first hurdles that beginners will have to get used to. You have to divorce the picture from how it's being used. Okay. So, and I'm going to show an example. That's what I'm going to kind of elaborate on, and then we'll just open it up for Q&A and all the discussions that you would like to have. All right. So I want to elaborate more on that. Now, that process of divorcing a picture from its picture meaning into sounds is part of the rebus, what's called the rebus principle. All right. And we went over that yesterday, so I'm just going to review that real quick. A rebus is a message spelled out in pictures that represent sounds rather than the things that they're pictures of. Okay. And that's very important. It's a straightforward general definition of what a rebus is. All right. So, and here's an example. A popular rebus example is using the pictures of an eye, a human eye, the insect of a bee, and a leaf that falls off a tree. You put them together, and the sounds of what these objects are spells out the phrase "I believe." So we can use these three pictures to convey a statement of "I believe," even though the act of someone believing has nothing to do with leaves falling off a tree, doesn't have to do with bees, and doesn't have to do with a human eye or an animal's eye. Okay? So it's completely divorced from what the pictures are, and it's only being used for their sound values. And that's very important. And that's why I'm emphasizing this again tonight. Okay? You have to divorce the picture content and understand that it's used for sounds. Sounds. Okay? Now that's what I explained yesterday. So now I want to elaborate on how that process is. Like just give you more information on that process. Because this is, like I said, for beginners, this is one of the biggest hurdles that needs to be overcome. And it's understood because our writing system in English, we actually do it, but our characters in English are not pictorial in nature. Like the letter A, like our alphabet, A to Z, they're not pictures of anything. They may have come from pictures of things. You know, if you trace out the Proto-Sinaitic script and how it went to the Latin and Greek and all that kind of stuff, it has a history that's traceable. But our alphabet is not pictorial in nature at all. At best, you could say the letter A looks like a A-frame ladder. If you're a construction worker, you use an A-frame ladder. The capital letter A looks like an A-frame ladder. That's why they call it an A-frame ladder, because it looks like the letter A, etc. But they're not pictures. So we're completely not used to this at all. But so to elaborate, to jump to me elaborating on this. So now, what we have to remember is that, well, let's see. No, don't want to show that yet. So just real quickly, when it comes to language, what we're calling words, is really a composite of three things. It's composed of three elements. Every word that we say is a word. It is composed of a form, and that form can be whether it's sound or written. If you're speaking, it'll be sound. If you're reading, it'll be written. But that will be the form. Then we have the meaning, which is the concept. All right? And these are on, like, if you picture two sides of a coin, you have form and meaning. Sound pattern or written pattern, or the concept on the other side. Then you have the link between the two. And these 3 points, this unit here is referred to linguistically as a sign. All right. Now, in everyday conversations, us lay people, we don't deal with these technical terms or whatever. I'm giving them here so that you'll know what they are. And when you're learning this, we definitely use all these technical terms, and because you have to be precise. But that's what a word is. A word is really a sign, but we don't say sign, we say words. All right. And that this is important because, and so here's another way of looking at it. So we have a word / sign. Then on one side we have the concept, which is the meaning, and then on the other side we have the sound pattern if we're speaking, or written pattern, which is the form. All right. Now, let's go to this example. Just to give you an example, I always use elephant as an example. So elephant, to us, we would say elephant is a word, but it's also a sign. We just don't say that. But elephant is a word. Now, on the concept side of this word, we have the mental conceptualization that we have in our minds. This is part of our psyche, the psychological part of this word, and that would be of a large, typically a large gray animal with big ears, a long snout, and it weighs tons. That's what we mentally conceptualize in our minds of this word. Now, the other side is the sound pattern. The sound pattern is elephant. When I pronounce the word elephant, or the written pattern, if I write it on paper, I would have to spell it out. ELEPHANT. Okay? So these two things, the form and the meaning, are glued together within this sign, elephant. So anybody that's speaking English, if I say the word elephant, they're hearing the sound pattern. But because in their mind, they have the whole sign stored in their mind, when I just say the sound pattern and pronounce elephant, that triggers the concept of the large gray animal in their mind. Okay? That's how language works. All right? So now, to kind of illustrate this, let's take the word elephant, which is the same mental concept of this large gray animal with the snout, etc. But now look at the form side. On the form side, we have this form here, ndovu. Ndovu. Ndovu sounds nothing like the word elephant or the pronunciation of elephant. Elephant and ndovu don't sound anything alike. But this form here, NDOVU, is the form for the exact same mental concept of this large gray animal. But this is the form. This form glued to the concept is a Swahili sign, aka word. So it's a Swahili word. Undovu is a Swahili word for the exact same concept. But it's the concept and the form glued together that produces the Swahili sign. And likewise, we have another form, liech. Liech. This sound pattern is also glued to the concept of this large gray animal. And together, they form a Deluo sign, aka word, in the Deluo language. So this should make it clear to everyone listening to me what a language actually is. A language is a collection of signs. Any particular language is really a collection of signs. And I just explained what signs are. Signs are a combination of a form and a meaning that's glued together. Okay? And it's because of this phenomenon that we have a such thing called translation. So translation, just to show you from this slide here, when we translate something, all what we're really doing is we're matching concepts. So remember, the English word or the English sign elephant, the concept is a large gray animal with the ears and the snout, right? Well, the Swahili sign of ndovu, which is on the form side, it has this exact same mental concept of a large gray animal. So all you do is match concept to concept, and then you can equate the forms. So now we can set up an equation. The English word elephant equals the Swahili word ndovu. Why? Because those are two different forms for the same concept. That's what translations are, essentially. And the same thing for Deluo. So I can set up an equation here. Elephant equals ndovo, which equals liech. All right? So hopefully everybody got that. Now, having said that, going back to the rebus principle. So let's just read the definition real quick again, because I'm going to show you all how this works. A rebus is a message spelled out in pictures that represent sounds rather than the things that they're pictures of. Okay? So now we're back onto the glyphs. So we're going to look at this glyph right here. This is Gardner code D21. For those of you who are familiar with Gardner codes, it is an open mouth. Okay, this glyph right here. It's an open mouth. That's what it's a picture of. It's a picture of an open mouth. Now, as an open mouth, in this form here with this logographic stroke, the meaning that's being conveyed is that of a mouth. It's the word for mouth. The word ra, for mouth. So this sign here, this Egyptian sign, the concept side is a mouth. And the pattern is, when it's written, it looks like this. And when it's pronounced, we pronounce it today as ra, meaning mouth. Okay? But now, if we were to use this as a phonograph, and here's where this is the climax of the point I'm making, is that when we are using it as a phonograph, just as this mouth here, now we have to erase the mental concept of a mouth. So it's free from the mental concept. It's divorced from the mental concept. And now on the form side, it only represents the sound of the consonant R. Okay? So now it's just representing a consonant R and not a mouth anymore. All right? So keep that in mind. Here's another example. Here's the word for bread. Up top, this word right here. This is the ancient Egyptian sign or word for bread. The mental concept side, the meaning side, is that of bread. Whatever's conceived in your mind when somebody says bread in English. Bread, a loaf of bread. A bunch of flour that's baked and it rises and everything like that. That's what's on the mental side, on the concept side. On the form side, when it's written, it looks like this. You see the glyphs right here. But as far as a sound pattern, the way we pronounce it today is T or te. Okay? So that's what it is. Now, the bread loaf sign, or glyph, I should say, the glyph itself, when we use it as a phonograph, we have to divorce it from the concept of bread itself, and we're just using it to represent the sound of the consonant T. T. So it no longer means bread. It only means a reference to the sound of the consonant T. All right. So I just wanted to point that those things out so that everyone's aware. Now I want to see if I have an example of something to show. Just give me 1 second. See if I don't have anything on here to actually show a word, just to give another example. But hopefully this is clear for everyone, that this is how one of the three ways in which these glyphs can function, which is our phonographs. So whenever you say a glyph is operating as a phonograph, divorce it from its mental concept. Divorce it from its mental concept. All right. And I'll dig into an example a little later. But I just wanted to kind of touch that and do that quick review before we open up for Q&A based on anything we spoke about yesterday and anything I just said. All right. So I will now shrink my. So now I am back into the chat. And again, I want to say peace and greetings to everybody who's tuned in after my first intro, after our intro. See, we have Jehudi Ma'at in the building. Brother Sarimotep is in the building. Sean P is in the building. And Happy Valley Farms is in the building. All right. LA, Oklahoma as well. Peace. Peace to everyone. So, if anyone has any questions about, now remember, this is an open discussion, open forum. I'm going to actually post the link right now. Let me get the link over. So although this is a Q&A and open forum, open discussion, I want to keep it home on all aspects of the language and the writing system. But now we can venture out in the neighborhood a little bit, you know, that's fine. But we're not going to go all the way into another state, another country, if you see what I'm saying. So I'm trying to keep it home to any questions, discussions about the language and things like that. And we can venture out a little bit. All right, so here is the link. So I get this pinned up. If I can pin it to the top. All right. So hopefully you all can see the link. Yeah, it should be there. So feel free to come on to the panel and ask your question, share information. All right. So, and if you don't come on the panel and you have a question in the chat and you're staying in the chat, kindly at Seshu, type at Seshu so that your question will stick out and I can see it. All right. And I'm gonna scroll through now just to see if I see any questions that I've already missed. All right. Again, but I say greetings to everybody. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. I'm scrolling through, and we're about to see what do we have. Any questions? Okay, so Sean, looking for questions or statements. I know how the YouTube chats can get. Everybody can have a conversation among themselves. But the purpose here, this is open discussion. The video, the teaching moment in the lesson, the brief lesson was last night. So definitely check out the video from last night. All right. So Sean P., according to Cedric of PK, you all are not doing any research. You're regurgitating. Okay, well, people are entitled to their opinions and things like that. That's fine. Now, the truthfulness of these statements, people could dig into those. But, at this point, people, we just have to move forward and be a part of the learning process and not be a part of the stagnant environment of going nowhere. And that's what this is about. It's about moving forward and making progress in learning. For those who are interested in learning about the ancient Egyptian culture. Because the thing is if you're not interested in something, then you're not going to put time and effort into it one way or the other. So it's interesting that when you're interested in something, it's like anything that you buy from the store. Let's say any gadget that you buy from the store, anything, they always come with directions on how to use it, how to assemble it, if you have to assemble it, put it together, and how to use it as well. So you won't break it, so you won't misuse it, right? So everything comes with a guideline to operate effectively and efficiently. So now, if somebody's interested in learning the culture of ancient Egypt and things like that, then you have to do so correctly. Like there's a correct way to go about doing that. And if you avoid doing it, then you run the risk of messing up. Same thing if you buy a TV. If you never look at the directions on how to operate the TV, operate the remote control, you could break it. You see? So bypassing the proper ways of learning about different things is not the in the best interest of somebody to be successful. It's not a road to success. It's a road to failure. And anybody who's interested, as I said, anyone who's interested in ancient Egypt, its culture and things like that, you have to gain that knowledge by way of the language. You're not going to get anywhere. And that's fine for some people because it depends on the level of your interest, how far you want to go and what you want to know. Because some people look at Egypt as, a bucket list. They want to go visit. It's an ancient site. They hear a lot about it. There's a lot of mystery in the air about ancient Egypt. And they're just in a nosy way. They just want to find out a little bit about Egypt. And that's enough for them. And that's it. But for those kind of people that do that and it's enough for them, you're not going to find them on YouTube or Facebook or social media getting in arguments about Egypt because they actually have satisfied their thirst. They're only thirsty enough to be nosy and just learn a little bit about Egypt. And that's it. And be wild about the temples, the pyramid, and things like that. Go over there on a tour, bring home some souvenirs, and they're fine. But for those people who dedicate time to arguing and getting into debates, so-called debates and arguments about Egypt, those people are not in a position to actually do that because they have totally bypassed the means in which to understand Egypt, which is to understand certain fundamentals when approaching a foreign culture. And on top of that, Egypt, not only is Egypt a foreign culture, but it's a dead culture. And it's far removed in time. So that makes it even more challenging. And it comes down to people not willing to do work. It's on the side of laziness. And I don't mean physically busybody laziness. It's mental laziness. To go through the necessary steps to gain competency in something, then from an informed position, then you can have discussions about it. So at this point, all of that should be recognized. And either people are okay with that and they're entertained by that, because I understand that, especially with the short staff of writers in Hollywood and stuff like that, people run out of things on Netflix to watch. So we want to be stimulated. We want to be entertained. So I get it. People want to be entertained. So that may be okay for people. But for people who take information and studies more seriously, then this is what we could help you with. Moving things forward. Actually learning. Not simply just going around in circles and arguing over the same thing for 50 years. All right. So I'm still looking for questions, and I posted the link in the chat. All right. I posted the link in the chat. I just want to scroll. So I'm going to assume that everybody understood what was said yesterday. So Infinite Mind says, what would the people of Kemet visualize when they saw the word Kemet in different glyphs? So Infinite Minds. If you saw the show last night, I'm just gonna remind you. But if not, I'll repeat what I said last night. When we discuss different ancient Egyptian words, we have to be mindful of what's called homographs. And so the example I gave last night is I'm always emailed or inboxed where people will ask me for a favor. They say, well, Wujao, if you don't mind, can you tell me what this Egyptian word means? Matter of fact, let me just show you an example on the screen. Where did I have it? I had it right here. Okay. So let's just take this as an example. Make it big. So now, mind you, all of these words, there's 6 words on the screen. There's 6 words on the screen. All of these words are transliterated the exact same. PRT, 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 etc. And the way we pronounce these today are all the same. But these are 6 different words. But they're spelled the same in terms of transliterations, and they're pronounced the same in the way that we pronounce it today. So imagine if somebody said, hey, Wujao, tell me what PRT means. The Egyptian word PRT means. Do you see the problem that I would have? I wouldn't be able to answer their question until they show me the glyphs. So whenever somebody inbox me and ask me to give them a translation, help them out, give them a translation or meaning of a word, I always, without fail, I always tell them, hey, show me the glyphs. Do your best to get the glyphs and send that to me, because the glyphs will help understand which word you're talking about. Because these words, like the word for progeny, this word right here, progeny, is different than the word Puret for procession in terms of its use and its meaning in a sentence and everything like that. But if you didn't know any better, if you didn't see the glyphs, you would think that this Puret and this Puret is the exact same thing. You would think that all 6 of these are the exact same thing, and they're not. Okay, so now I know I said a lot just now for this question. So Infinite Minds, I said all of that to say is that now when you look at your question, you're saying, what would the people of Kemet visualize when they saw the word Kemet in different glyphs? So there is no such thing as the word Kemet. There are words that we would transliterate as KMT or Kemet. So the short answer now is that they would visualize based on looking at the glyphs. And so what would help them out is, of course, context that is used in. That's a big contribution to what they would conceive in looking at a word, the context. But also, if they were looking at it in the glyphs, we have what we call, their glyphs that we call classifiers, aka determinatives. All right. And so that's what these are, determinatives. And determinative is a common name for these that you'll find in books, but it's becoming a little bit more outdated as time goes on. And the preferred name for this function of glyphs would be classifiers, because that will help people understand that the ancient Egyptians classified their words in different categories. Okay. And it provides the semantic borders or semantic scopes of these different words. But that is what would help them to conceive whatever they're doing. So, for example, these 3 here, if an ancient Egyptian saw this word, they know that this word has to do with something dealing with time, because of this last glyph as a classifier. It's in the class of time. Okay. The next word here, even though we pronounce it the same and transliterate it the same, this has a plow and 3 strokes. So they would know that this glyph has something to do with farming or the actions of farming or sowing seeds or whatever the case is, because it's a plow. Then the last glyph, I'm sorry, the last word and its last glyph as a classifier is legs in motion. So they would know that this word has something to do with movement, motion, to and fro, up and down, whatever, whatever. Okay? There would be actions of motion. All right? So that's how they would determine it. So hopefully that answers your question. So if they look at a word that we would transliterate as KMT, it all depends on the glyphs that are there and how those glyphs are used. All right. So now if you're talking about a specific KMT, we can bring that back. I mean, you could bring that up. All right. So
So glyphs and context, especially in those areas, or sometimes when you don't find classifiers accompanying. So the context will be king in that in that situation.
yes, exactly.
Yep,
Yep.
and I think we had a good example when we were going over the hymn to Saint Winslow, the one that everybody, most people, kind of use the word kemet in it, and they forget to actually look at the context of what is being talked about in that particular hymn. So if you do it wrong, then you end up like that. But yeah.
All right. So remember, the link to the panel is in the chat, but I'm just going down the list and I'm trying to see. Now, remember, if you have a question directly, just at the Seshu so it can stand out. So Babylon Dunn says, Wujao, you are making a point that contradicts your own point, and the same with the other side. See, I'm not sure if I recognize sides like that, but Babylon Dunn, elaborate on what you mean that I'm contradicting my point. Elaborate on that, because right now I have no idea of what you could be talking about. I'm not sure. All right, so elaborate on that. Infinite Minds, I understand it's like the word awo in Yoruba based on how it's said and written with marks. Just asking for someone else listening that aren't hearing me. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully that my explanation is sufficient for your question. That it has to be basically, it's dependent upon context. Of course, that's the biggest thing. Because remember, meaning, and here's another thing that people have to understand: meaning is semantics. Like when people say semantics, you're talking about meaning, and there's layers of meaning. Okay, so for example, a word unto itself, an individual word unto itself, that's listed in a list of words called a dictionary or vocabulary list. A dictionary will list a general meaning based on its use in society. And what I would encourage people to do is to look up how are words put in dictionaries. Like, how are new words added to dictionaries? Like, what is their process? What are these dictionaries process in doing so? And so you have a lexical inventory of a language and the basic use meanings of these different words. But now the practical meaning of a word comes from the contextual environment. And so this is why I always encourage people to study semantics and pragmatics when it comes to language. Because a word can be listed as having one meaning in a dictionary, but the way that somebody uses it could be completely different than what you see in a dictionary. Completely different. And we all should be familiar with that. Like, I'll give you an example of two antonyms, two opposite words. And these two words is hot and cold. Hot and cold are opposites of each other. opposites, but yet they can mean the exact same thing when people use it. So, for example, I always use example on the East Coast, somebody will look at a pair of shoes and say those shoes are hot. In the Midwest, in Chicago and stuff, people say, hey, those shoes are cold. Those are some cold shoes. Where you get them from? On their own, hot is opposite from cold. But when you read those statements, are there two people saying the opposite things? No, they're saying the same thing. They're saying the exact same thing. Okay? So people have to understand that context is king. And this is where the grammar, listen, not knowing the grammar of a language, and we're talking about the ancient Egyptian language. So without knowing the grammar of the ancient Egyptian language, it is like looking at a 2D rendition of something versus a 3D rendition of something. 2D is flat. All you see is X and Y coordinates. That's it. 3D, now you have that Z, that Z coordinate. Now you have depth. And so people who don't understand the grammar of the ancient Egyptian language, and they look at the glyphs and they can memorize what the bread loaf is, that it represents or transliterates a T, the open mouth transliterates an R, and all of that. That's only going to get you so far. Like I said, it's equivalent of looking at a 2D image versus 3D virtual reality. So imagine playing video games on your TV, PS5, PlayStation, in 2D on your TV, but you're playing point of view versus the new Apple, what is it, Apple Vision? Imagine playing the same game in Apple Vision where you're in the game now. You're actually in the game, and where you turn your head, you're looking at everything. That's the equivalent to dealing with the Egyptian language, knowing the grammar versus not knowing the grammar. And you won't know that until you jump in the game, right? So you won't know it until you learn the grammar. Then you'll realize it. Okay, so I hope that's clear on that. Any other question? I don't see any more ads. Listen, the link is in the chat. Babylon done. I'm waiting on you to clarify yours. And so again, peace to everyone who is tuned in. All 30 million of you who are tuned in. But see, I like to engage the chat since nobody's on the panel, right? Are y'all following everything I'm saying? Because you all have to let me know if what I said don't make sense. Let me know. Let me know. Okay. This is not about me forcing you to listen to me and agree with me and pick a side or create even sides. Like I don't even see all of that or anything like that. Okay. But I'm trying to make everything as simple as possible while stressing the important points that I think that are taken for granted. At least in what I'm seeing people do. Okay. So while I'm waiting for other questions, I wanna share something else with you all. All right. So I'm gonna give you an example. I did this before, but I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna share a quick dictionary with you all. And first of all, let me pull it up. Okay. Let's see. What's a good one? I want to try to find something. I just want you to see exactly what I'm talking about. Just something I want to see. I want to show something that's just crazy, and it's kind of along the lines of what I was saying before in terms of divorcing the image part and only using things as for its consonantal value. And just bear with me. I'm trying to get an extreme one that's going to just hit home. That there's no doubt about anything. Okay. All right, so let's this is a good one. All right, let's see if I can make this clear and big. This should be a good one. Why is it not clear? All right. Okay, I'll make it big as possible. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. And I'm doing this to buy time. You have questions, you can come on the panel or make sure you add Seshu in the chat so I can see it. All right, but let me share this. I think this is a good one to drive the point home too. All right. Okay, so right now I'm sharing an ancient Egyptian dictionary. That it's a dictionary by Mark Vigus. And this is readily available. It's portable. It's in a PDF format. And this is a dictionary I recommend people to use, especially if you're a beginner. There's not a lot of bells and whistles about it, so it doesn't confuse you. You don't have to learn a lot on how to use it. It's very straightforward, and it's organized in order based on the Gardner codes, which is very good for the learning process. Now, what I always recommend people to do is get all the dictionaries. Don't ever just get one dictionary. Get all of them. Every last one of them that you can get them. Even if it's in foreign languages. Ancient Egyptian to French or ancient Egyptian to German. That doesn't matter. Get them all. Okay? I always stress that. But as a beginner, the functional one, practical one that I recommend beginners to use, even if you collect them all, is the Mark Vigus one, because it definitely helps in the learning process at a fundamental level, at a beginner's level. Okay? So remember that. Now, what I have on the screen here is this word here, and I'll see if I can blow it up even more. Is this word here, meter. Is transliterated as METR. Excuse me, MTR, not ME, but MTR. Okay, y'all see it on the screen? It should be big. It's highlighted in yellow. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the glyphs that spell that word. We have D52, which is a phallus, and then an open mouth. Now, if you just saw this phallus glyph or picture of a phallus and a picture of a mouth, you were interpreting this based on its pictorial value, and you didn't know anything from anything, what would you think this is trying to say? You have a picture of a phallus and a picture of a mouth. What would you think that this is trying to convey? And be honest, I'm asking the chat. That's a real question. I'm asking the chat. So I want to see some answers, because I want to see if you all are paying attention, and I'm driving the point home by using this as an example. I don't see any responses yet in the chat. Are y'all still with me? What did I lose you all? What happened? What happened? So again, let me repeat it. This is a picture of a phallus, which is Gardner code D52, and then a mouth, open mouth. Not just a mouth, but an open mouth. It was a D21. A phallus and an open mouth. if you were to interpret this based on its pictorial value, what would you think the meaning is? I see people may be a little reluctant to answer that, so we can move forward. So the point here, this should drive the point home. This should drive the point home very, very well. Okay, when I said that glyphs that are used as phonographs, you divorce it from its pictorial conveyance of meaning, and you only use it to represent sounds within the language. So this word has nothing to do with a phallus. The phallus is only being used for the two consonants of an M as in Mary and T as in Tom. M and T. That's what that phallus is doing there. It's no longer a phallus in terms of meaning. It's only there for the M and T consonants. And the open mouth is only there for the R consonant. So together it spells, we transliterate it as MTR. What does that word mean in the Egyptian language? It means to attest, to inform, to tell. And you had to ask yourself, what does a phallus have to do with telling and informing and attestations, to attest? So I hope y'all understand this. And if you understand it, then make sure you pass it on to other people so they could understand it. All right? And I chose this one because I know, because this one is like one of those ones that should click in everybody's heads. All right. So hopefully you all got that. All right. So I can take that away now. So now we're back. All right. So were there any questions that came up? Y'all follow that? Type 1 if y'all follow that. At least let me know that while I looking for questions. Type 1 if y'all got the point. Say, with y'all, I got it. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. Tell me you got it. Okay, so the next question I have up though is Babylon done. You argue that others have read up on a topic to argue it, yet you, Wujao. Okay, I'm not sure if you finished your sentence. I'm not sure. But if I understand your comment here and the one before it, no, I'm not contradicting myself at all. At all. So I'll repeat my statement and what I advocate. What I advocate is that in order to argue a claim, in order to make a claim and to argue that claim, especially if you're arguing against, counter to another claim, you have to be competent in the said subject or topic in order to do so. If you're not, then you're just simply not qualified to argue. It's just really just that simple. Everybody is entitled to an opinion, but there's different types of opinions. And I don't think people understand that. An opinion is not just an opinion. There's different types of opinion. You have uninformed opinions that people have. Then you have informed opinions that people have. Just to name two. Informed opinions have more value than uninformed opinions, although everybody can have an opinion. And if that's hard to understand, just take for a moment, picture somebody in your family getting sick. You know, forbid it happening, but just for a moment, picture, don't picture a person, just picture a person, period, who's sick and need medical assistance from the hospital or whatever. Now, somebody else in the family are going to give their opinion that they're entitled to about what should happen or what the person should do, what the person has, what's wrong with the person, and what the person should do. But then you have somebody who's competent in medicine, competent in human anatomy, competent in diagnosing illnesses and things like that, and they give their opinion. And so the question is, whose opinion is more valuable? The uninformed opinion or the more informed opinion? And I only use sickness because when it comes to sickness or life and death, all of a sudden people understand what I'm saying. They get it. They get it. Like me, I don't know much about cars, automobiles. So if your car break down and I'm just your friend and I walk up to your car, I'm like, your car is down, you say, "Hey, my car broke down." I can give you my opinion. But then you go to an auto mechanic or what have you, a person who deals with cars on a regular basis, whatever, they come and tell you something, then which opinion is more valuable? Which opinion has value? Now that should be obvious, but here's the crazy part. What actually goes on that I see that goes on in relation to argument is in that same scenario. If the mechanic gives an opinion and I give an informed opinion and I give an uninformed opinion, then it is what it is. You leave it alone. But what happens is it's the equivalent of me now arguing. I'm arguing with the mechanic and my friend whose car is broke down. I'm arguing from an uninformed opinion's position. That's what you don't do. Why would I argue? I don't even know enough to argue. So people got to know, what's the Kenny Rogers song? You have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to something, and know when to run away. I forgot how the song goes. But you got to know when to fold them. You just have to know. All right, let me just keep going. Everybody said one. You got it. You got it. Yep, Ramza said he got it. All right. I don't see any more questions. I don't see any more at Sesh. I guess y'all just like to hear me talking. Just like to hear me talk, huh? But I hope y'all got that the phonograph aspect. And it's important. It's very important. It's very important because you will see what I have seen. I've seen people will look at Egyptian words and they look at the glyphs, and then they'll expect the glyphs to reflect what the word means. They'll expect all the glyphs to reflect what the word means, and that's not the case. That's not the case. The example I just showed you. The phallus and the open mouth does not reflect what the word meter means. So in reverse, if anybody's looking for the glyphs, like in reverse engineering, if somebody's looking for the glyphs to match a meaning, they're in trouble. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Okay, so it just does not work like that. So hopefully everyone understands that. I don't see any questions. MK, you had anything?
Yeah, I had a question. And I know because when you earlier you had said that you really don't know a language until you know its grammar. So I was gonna ask that why do you think a lot of people avoid grammar in learning ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs or the writing system itself? Only saying this because I don't see it's not a lot of people that take it far, like take it to another level. Like let's say you deal with the grammar, Asad deals with linguistics and whatnot. You don't you see people mostly like it could be 10 years or even 15 years, just discussing just surface level stuff, the beginner stuff, dictionaries and things like that. So is it is it that it's too difficult, or is it, I don't know. So that's why I wanted to ask you, why do you think a lot of people avoid grammar?
Well, I guess the overall reason is that it's it's daunting. It could be seen as daunting. It could be seen as a lot of work. People don't have time, and it could be a sense of intimidation when learning grammar, because even the grammar of your own mother language, there's a lot of people who don't fare well in as far as school. I know just me in school, like English grammar, like a lot of my friends around me, and obviously this is only my personal experience. They didn't like grammar. They didn't like English grammar, even though we speak English. Didn't really like it or whatever. But as adults now, as adults, the day to day, the average adult, you have to make a living, right? So most people work a 9 to 5. Even if you have your own business, you're an entrepreneur, that's still hard work. You have to dedicate a lot of time. Unless you inherit it and you got generational wealth and things like that, you're going to have to work. And then if you have a family, you have a wife or husband, and you have children, you have to work and provide, and so on and so forth. So your time is limited. And so people tend to slice and dice their time up for what's important to them. And so Egypt, being a dead culture, a dead language, although it's fascinating to people and mysterious to people, they don't equate that to a level of importance to where they can dedicate time to it. So that's a reason. That's another reason. So although there's some interest there, but it's not enough interest to actually slice out a pie of the time pie and then dedicate some time to do it right. So shortcuts are looked for. Any shortcut, because remember, water travels the path of least resistance, and that's how the mind works. So we wanna do things in at the shortest way possible. Shortcuts. We look for shortcuts. Even on the keyboard right now, on the computer keyboard, they got keyboard shortcuts. Who wants to type out all this stuff when you can hit Command D, Command S to save? Who wants to click the mouse around when I can just hit Command S? So people look for shortcuts, and shortcuts have its place where it's beneficial. But then there are shortcuts that are detrimental to whatever goal is. And so this is why I always say that when it comes to ancient Egypt and really any other endeavor to learn a culture, you can't microwave it. This is not a microwave situation. You can't microwave ancient Egypt and expect to have a nice, healthy meal. You can't. If you microwave Egypt, you're going to come out with some sloppy, watery, nasty stuff. And I'm using these analogies, but I hope everybody get it. You can't microwave this. There's no shortcuts to it. Now, within the correct process of learning, you use all the tools you can, and you use them correctly. And the tools are supposed to be made and used to make things more efficient. But you can't cut things out. You can't erase steps and things. You have to. It's like a math problem. Everybody's familiar with PEMDAS, the acronym PEMDAS, in working out a mathematical equation. You can't skip them. You can't skip the steps. If you bake a cake, you can't skip steps. you can't skip the step of blending the ingredients together in a bowl if your goal is to make a cake. Imagine cracking an egg, putting the flour in a bowl, cracking an egg, putting the milk or water up in there, your oil or and everything, and then just throwing it in the oven. You skip the blending part. So although you're doing something, you're not doing it correctly, and the outcome is not the intended goal. So when people study ancient Egypt, the people who cut things out, their goal must not be to actually study Egypt. Their goal, what I find, and this is what I'm seeing, and this is from my observations, and people may have the same observations or not. But what I see people do is they don't approach things properly because their goal is different. Their goal is to either create content and entertain and be able to talk about something, to argue it, and it's not really to actually learn it. People look for things just enough to find something to weaponize and then argue against somebody else, whoever their opponent target is. That's what I see. Because if people were really about learning, then they would go through the proper steps and we could do it collectively. But that's what I see. I've seen it too many times. I've been doing this for a while, and I've seen it time and time again. So grammar, back to your question specifically, grammar is a part of the process that a lot of people omit from their process of learning. People think that knowing how a glyph is transliterated and knowing and having a dictionary is enough. And it's not. It's enough to argue and create entertaining content, but it's not enough to advance the knowledge of the culture. So there you have it. Oh, we have someone on the panel. I apologize. Welcome Uncle Majed to the panel. Peace to you.
Blessings, blessings. You hearing me good over?
Yep, I can hear you. You're a little bit low, but you're clear, but you're just a little bit low.
I'll try to talk a little louder. My question, what I want to come to ask you, is to do with the conventions around vocalizing Medew Netcher language now, right? Sesh Medew Netcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know if you have any insight into why the inherent vowel is a E instead of because in other, let me say in certain Afro-Asiatic languages, however, the inherent vowel is a A in like Arabic or Ethiopic or certain of these languages, but like they have it as a E in Egyptian. So I want to know if you have any information about the convention.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Now let me just back up, just in case other people may not be familiar with what you're talking about. So I just want to just give a quick backdrop. So, what Akoma is asking about is in what we call Egyptological pronunciation of ancient Egyptian words. The standard convention is for us to put, when we spell it out, these words out, put an E in between all the consonants. And we pronounce it as the schwa E, like like a short E in the word egg, pretty much. So like the word NFR, we pronounce it as nefer or nefer. And that's been the standard way that everyone does it within Egyptology. Okay, so that was just kind of accepted and became the standard consensus in Egyptology to put an E in between all the consonants. Okay, so just so people will know. And so what you're asking about is pretty much like kind of why or how that happened. And so when these early Egyptologists had found themselves needing to discuss these Egyptian words, and pronouncing them, they couldn't pronounce the words without vowels, of course, because you can't speak a language without vowel sounds. Vowels are actually the voice of a language, and so they decided to use the short e schwa sound pretty much out of an average sound that is likely pronounceable by many people. So there are sounds in different languages that are hard to pronounce for other languages. So for English, there are sounds in Arabic that English speakers will find very difficult to pronounce, like that, like the ah and the gh and the kha sound, the khalif, the ain, and all that. they're hard to pronounce for English speakers. So the schwa is like a sweet spot for a vowel that pretty much everybody and their mother can pronounce, and that, so it became a convention that was done. So now what I do want to say, and I'm glad you asked that, because I want to share this with everybody, is that the recovery of the ancient Egyptian vocalization is actually a project that's being worked on. It's been on the minds of a few scholars, Dr. Raketi Amin being one advocate of it. For a long time, she's been advocating to work on that, to be able to recover as best as possible. Now, it's not going to be a 100% because the obviously there's no ancient Egyptian alive today to say, hey, you're right, hey, you're wrong. But based on scientific methods within linguistics, the people who do the work can come close. Okay, so it's not going to be an exact science. We have to just accept to be, being very close. But I just want to share with everybody that that's actually being done, and it's been worked on for quite a while. But now there's some promising results of that type of work being out. Okay, as of this year, there's a book published. It's a 600-page book published by Jean-Claude Mboli, and it's entitled Ipapi Bantu, the Bantu Epic from the Great Lakes to the Mediterranean. And in this book, he is actually addressing vocalizations of ancient Egyptian words. And it's a very promising piece of work. I haven't been able to go through the entire book and digest it, so I can't speak on it to any in-depth extent or anything. But I will say that it's being done. So it's just exciting that this work is being done, and actually something has been officially published on it. So just want to share that with you in case you didn't know either.
All right, man. Give thoughts.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let me see if I can show everyone the title of the book, because I want people to be able to get it. Well. Now here's the thing: there's a caveat. There's a caveat with it. The book is in French. Okay, the book is in French. So if you can't read French, then it's definitely a challenge. But there are plans, according to Mboli himself, there are plans to publish it in English, and I believe he said ETA is 2025, next year. But the book came out this year. Okay, it's 2024 publication. But let me just show you all the books so you all can recognize it if you want to get it. Like I said, it's a challenge. I'm not waiting. His previous book was in French, and it was a challenge, but I was able to deal with that. And so this is no different for me, at least. Anyway, but this is the book here. This is both of his books. For those who want to see it. So that's the title of the book. Ipapi Bantu, and the rest of it is French, and I'm not going to pretend to speak French. I don't want anybody to be laughing at me, but the book title in English is The Bantu Epic from the Great Lakes to the Mediterranean. All right. The yellow one on the left is his 2010 work called The Origin of African Languages, where he's systematically using the scientific linguistic method of historical comparative linguistics to compare different African languages to determine their genetic relationships. And from there, it allows him to move forward and deal with recovery of vocalizations and so on and so forth. All right. So hopefully everybody be aware of that. All right. Was any other questions? Okay. But yeah, peace to Ankoma, Jed. It's been a minute. It's definitely been a minute for that. Anything else? Peace to Benny San. So remember, if you just joining in, appreciate it. But this is a Q&A. This is an open discussion. So come one, come all. If you got questions and you want to stay in the chat, just make sure you at Seshu so it'll stand out. Otherwise, the link to the panel is in the chat as well. You can come on and have a discussion. And I was looking for Benny, not Benny San, sorry, Babylon Dunn. But I didn't see him come back to clarify. But yeah, there you go. MK, you got anything?
Maybe one more, since we are talking about learning Egyptian hieroglyphs. So once somebody has completed a beginner's level, they are at the point where they can they know the glyphs, they know how to look up words in the dictionary, and once they have that step down, what would you suggest they do? Would you suggest they continue transliterating, or maybe start looking into going into grammar?
Okay, just say the first part again.
So once somebody has completed the beginner's class, or has shown proficiency, whatever they're taking their classes from or studying from, where they can they know most of the glyphs, they can identify most of the glyphs, and they know how to look up words in the dictionary, what would you suggest would be the next step for them? Would you suggest they do more translations, and things like that, study the historical part, or get into grammar and things like that? Just kind of like a good path to follow.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Well, what I always recommend is, because the process of learning the ancient Egyptian language is just like any other language, but this one is different because of the nature. It's a dead language, so you can't consult a speech community and be saturated and influenced by speakers. So it's something that you have to actually do double time. You have to put in the work yourself. You have to be your own coach. And so what I always recommend people to do is, when you become competent at a beginner's level, which means that you have memorized the monoliterals, you know how the writing system operates and works, you know that the glyphs, what they are, which are pictographs, you know how they can function, and you're able to familiarize yourself with the necessary tools. Now it's a matter of application and repetition, redundancy. So what I tell people to do is to take out a little bit of time every day, every other day, and to apply all of the techniques that you learn at a beginner's level. So, for example, I tell people to pick a genre of Egyptian text. And I suggest the offering formulas, because the offering formulas are a very standard formula. They're formulas that are different lengths, and say slightly different things, but their structure is the same. You have the invocation itself of Hotep D Nasu. Then you have the deity or deities that's involved. Then you have a list of items as the offerings itself. Then you have the person who receives them, the beneficiary of the offering. That structure is solid. It's for all of them, but like I said, there's big offering formulas with a lot of text. Some of them small or whatever. So I usually tell people to start there, pick some, and work through them. Apply all the techniques from a beginner's level. Those steps. Let me put these steps back up. These steps that we went over yesterday, which are right. Where are they? Right here. These steps right here are immutable. So as a beginner, once you learn about the fundamentals at that beginner's level, what you want to do is follow these steps and practice it. And like I said, pick a specific text. I always suggest the offering formulas and go through these steps until you finish, and then pick another one and go through it until you're satisfied. And so when you build that up and you become more efficient, because what happens over time, you're going to, like, for example, step one is going to be instantaneous. Step 2 is going to get faster and faster exponentially, because the more glyphs that you see and you collect the data on, the more that you're going to be familiar with, and you don't have to look it up anymore. Like, I can look, like, I'll just give you a quick example. You can look at it at an open mouth glyph, and when you first come across it, obviously you don't know what it is. It's like an open mouth, but then you gotta look it up. Okay, the Gardner code is D21. What can it function as? Okay, it can function as a logograph for the word mouth, or it can function as a phonograph for the letter R, and so on and so forth. That's what you learn when you first have to deal with it. But once you do it, now you know. And so the more you do it, the more you know, and the more you can retain. And so you can look at a open mouth, and you don't have to pick up a book. You already know it stands for R if it's used as a phonograph. If it's a logographic stroke next to it, it's usually the word for mouth, R, or what have you, or a word in a language, and things like that. So through repetition, people will get better and better. And then once that is at a level of comfort, then I would tell people to start to dive into the grammar. Because the grammar is important for step 4 anyway. And so everybody's step 4 is going to change and get better and better and better. As a beginner, your step 4 is going to be preliminary. But then as you practice and you actually learn the grammar, then you're able to fine tune your translations and ascertain real meanings behind the different things. Okay, so anyway, hopefully that addressed that. But that's what I recommend.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm gonna go down the list. So Teddy, what's her Ma'at Ra Sanefaru says, was the material you were going over in, I guess he said, I think he corrected it, your book. Yes and no. Well, yeah, yes. I mean, not exactly what I have on the slides, but what I'm talking about, yes, it's definitely that and more. It's a whole lot. Like, I'm just giving an overview, and this is very basic, like a part about how the writing system works. But there is so much more to learn. There's a lot to learn, and it's not hard. It's just it takes dedication to actually go through the learning process. That's it. So, but the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And like I said, I've taken a hiatus from social media and YouTube and everything like that. And I also basically put my project down on the back burner, but now I have picked it back up, and that project being the grammar book. So, and that's what this is here in the left corner that everyone can see. Um, I'm back at it again. So, hopefully I will be able to have a 2025 publication of it. All right. So that's what I'm motivated and excited to get back into that and work on it. But yeah, anything I discuss about the grammar and stuff like that is coming from the book. As I do it on slides and things like that. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact as you see on the slides. But yeah. Anything else? I don't want to miss anything. Benny San says, you have come across, or have you come across words on walls or temple reliefs in Kemet that you have not found in a dictionary? Yes, I have. And so remember my statement yesterday. Dictionaries do not have all forms of words in them. Okay, the dictionaries, and this is something that people have to understand, about any dictionary, pretty much. And let me back up a bit. There's different types of dictionaries. So the idea of a dictionary to English, like if you look up Merriam-Webster's dictionary or Oxford English dictionary, and we being English speakers, the dictionaries are made differently. You'll have an entry. You'll have a word entry in the dictionary, and then you'll have the sense, which is an explanation. It's an elaboration and it's an explanation. They have sense 1, sense 2, sense 3, etc. If it has it, right? But now when you grab a foreign dictionary that's English and then some other language, those dictionaries are built and made differently. They don't have the same purpose. They're not explaining anything. They're just giving you equivalencies, or that's what they're trying to do, give equivalencies. So, like for example, Spanish to English. So you look up the English word house, and in a Spanish English dictionary, it'll say casa. House, casa. So now you know the Spanish word for house. But it doesn't tell you what a house is, though. But in English, you look up the word house, it's going to tell you what a house is. So, I know that's something simple, but trust me, I don't think a lot of people realize that about these dictionaries. So I say that to say that the dictionaries, these Egyptian dictionaries that we have, the most exhaustive one is the German Erman and Grappa Waterbuck dictionary. And it lists words, but it's not all forms of these different words. So when you see them actually in action in text and on the walls and in the temples and things, you're going to see words that you're not going to find in a dictionary like how you see it on the wall. You're not going to see it. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to show it on the screen. Let me see. Let's do that. Let me show it on the screen. I like to show examples of anything that I'm talking about. So what's a good one? And I actually posted, by the way, MBK, if you can post the link to our Facebook group, y'all definitely have, if you're on Facebook, join our Facebook group. Definitely join our Facebook group, because we're going through all these kinds of things inside the Facebook group. Some really good conversations going on. All right. So I'm just trying to find, because I posted something in the Facebook group, but that was long ago, and I'm just trying to find it real quick. Let's see if I can find it. But if you have anything you want to say.
Yeah, while you were actually searching that, just to add on to the question by Benny San, Sometimes even in the dictionaries, other than some words not being there, in other instances you will find the words, but then whatever their suggestion at that point that's being given, you can find them with question marks and things like that. So that doesn't also, in those instances, they do offer their suggestions of what that word might mean, but doesn't mean that it is established that that's exactly what it means. So in other instances, you can actually find words that haven't been established in that sense as well.
Okay. I'll say, all right. So I'm going to show this, and I'm just using this as a use case example to make my point or to answer the question. So, whoa. All right. And just give me 1 second here. Just want to get.
Oh yeah, and just to be clear, that hasn't been established or agreed upon, because I don't want people to think that if it's there with the definition, all of them have some work has been properly done to actually ascertain those. So there's agreements as well. Those are like with agreements and things like that. So just to kind of be clear on that.
Okay. So, here's an example. So, to kind of drive the point home to my answer to that question is, so here is a word, right? This word is tempt tempt nf ear, which is a word. It's one word, okay? And how we pronounce it today is should not be taken as if this is how the ancient Egyptians pronounced it, okay? They could, we pronounce this today conventionally as tempt nf ear or temet nf ear, etc. You may hear people say it a little bit differently, but this is a word. So you see the glyphs. Oh, and I think that if y'all can hear me, MK, can you hear me?
Yes, T.
Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go out and come right back in. I think it's one of those things. My computer's gonna make me leave and come back. So when that happens, you have to
Okay,
take the wheel.
no problem.
I'm trying to leave and come back in. But y'all remember where I'm leaving off and what I'm saying, because I know y'all can still see the screen, but it's gonna I have to go out and come back in any minute now. But while it's on the screen, I can't move my cursor. But let me just say this: the word is tempt nf ear. This is a word. You're not gonna find this word in a dictionary like this. If you look for it, you're gonna be looking all day and you're gonna get frustrated. It's gonna take you 30 days before you realize that, hey,
I realize that, hey, he's gone. Okay, so that is that. So we'll wait until he come back and finish on that. In the meantime, yeah, so hopefully everything is clear. um, I was hoping that well, actually, let me just ask the chat while we are here. So how many people in the chat um are able to work on inscriptions on their own? Like you can sit at home and pick some inscriptions, some ancient Egyptian text, and then work on them. Do some translation. It doesn't matter how long it takes you, but you can do that on your own. So, so that's the question for the chat. And so while I'm waiting, let me just go through the questions. And I see, what's the name here? JMO X. Okay, which dictionary did he mention was one of the best? I have a few. He mentioned the Waterbuck dictionary. So it's a German dictionary, and then there's the digital version, the online version, which is the TLA. You have the new version 2. So that's what he mentioned. And then I can see Benny San says, I'm trying. Not there yet. Jemo said yes, a little rusty, and then some David Young some. David Young is being humble though. Okay. Well, so that's good.
Peace, peace, peace. Can you hear me?
Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I think. Okay, I'll keep speaking because I think Wujao is still trying to work on getting his stuff
Test,
together.
testing.
Okay, so with those people that have taken that can do all that, what are the difficulties that you're facing sometimes? Because I'm trying to figure out something. What are some of the difficulties you face while working on these transliterations and translations?
Peace, peace. Can you hear me?
Oh, so Wujao might be speaking. Okay, I'll mute my mic for 1 second.
No, I'm asking, can I be heard? Can you hear me? Can anybody in the chat hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you now. Good. Okay, I'll mute. I think I
Okay,
was
all
talking
right.
over you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm up trying to find out what's going on, but okay, maybe you wouldn't be able to hear me. Okay, so now if you were saying something, I definitely probably interrupted you, but I just want to finish my thought on this example to answer that previous question. So
No problem.
if okay,
Yeah.
so if you all can hear me, and hopefully you all can hear me, right? So the question was, have I ever seen words on actual artifacts or whatever that's not in a dictionary? And so what I was saying was yes, and that's very, very common because of what dictionaries are for. Dictionaries are necessary tools. Everybody should have them. Like I said, I'm gonna say this again in case you didn't hear me say it like the 50 million other times. But I always recommend people to get all of the dictionaries you can, all of them, even if it's from Egyptian to German, Egyptian to French, Egyptian to Dutch, Egyptian to Italian, and Egyptian to English, whatever. Get all of them that you can. And then there's one that I do recommend beginners use while you're in that beginner's learning process, which is Mark Vigus Dictionary. That's the one I recommend at a beginner's level because it actually helps in the learning process because of the way the dictionary is organized and the fact that it's free and it's digitized. It's in a PDF format and it's searchable based on a manual decodage transliteration system. Okay, so that is why I recommend that one for beginners. But at the same time, get all of them and then eventually learn how to use all the others. Okay, so I want that to be clear. The most exhaustive dictionary we have is the Ehrman and Grabhall Waterbuck Dictionary. It's a German dictionary that's handwritten, and I think it's either 5 to 7 volumes of that, and it took years to make that dictionary. Okay, that is the most exhaustive dictionary we have to date in terms of the ancient Egyptian language, but it's in German. Now, the TLA is a project where they're digitizing the Waterbuck Dictionary or dictionaries, period, and a corpus of text, various different texts. They're digitizing these things, and it's an ongoing project. Okay, so the TLA is helpful, but there's a learning curve with it. Okay, so this is why at a beginner's level, I definitely recommend people use Mark Vigus Dictionary for the reasons that I gave. All right, so now back to this. So just to give you an example here, this is a word, temet or tempt nf ear. And this is a verbal form of a word. And so what I'm stressing here is that the stem of this word is ear, which means to do. Okay, that's what's represented by this I glyph here. That's the stem of this verb, and it is ear, to do. Now you'll find that in a dictionary. You'll find ear, and it means to do or do action, doing something, right? But this word in full, this whole word here, you're not going to find it because this has inflection on it. It has declension on it. And I listed out here below what this word has grammatically. This is how you would grammatically analyze this word. Okay. It has an indirect and direct inflection. It has absent of person. It's declension by adjectival ending, which is this T here. And then it refers to two entities. That and then a he. Here we have the third person masculine singular suffix or pronoun here. And so the meaning of this entire verb is that which he has not done. That is pointing to an entity, and then he is pointing to an entity. So this word right here is actually pointing or referring to two entities at once. Okay. And it has a negation. The word tim, it means to negate something, not. So this whole word means that which he has not done. And the verb do or done is coming from ear, the part right here, IR. Okay, so I'm just doing this because I'm giving you an example of what I said earlier. When you don't understand the grammar of a language, you cannot say you know the language. And I gave the analogies with the sports, the basketball and stuff like that. You can't say you play basketball until you understand the rules that govern basketball and you comply with it. If you grab a basketball and you run down the basketball court as if you had a football in your hand, you're not playing basketball. You're just not playing basketball. To play basketball is to abide by the rules of basketball. You can't say I'm a basketball player, but yet you don't even dribble. You don't dribble, you foul, you elbow and punching people and stuff like that. You're not playing basketball. You're not playing basketball at that point. So the same thing. You're not dealing with the Egyptian language until you understand the rules that govern the language. Okay? And I can't emphasize that enough. So just like the basketball scenario, you can grab a basketball and throw it towards the basket, and sometimes you'll make it, sometimes you'll miss. Yeah, you could say you do that. That's fine. But that's still not playing basketball. So likewise, with this language, people can identify glyphs. Yeah, this is the bread loaf. Yeah, this is the owl. Yeah, this is the water ripple. This is the horn viper. This is the eye glyph. And I know how it's transliterated. This is a T. This is a biliteral for TM. This is a phonetic complement for the M. This is a bread loaf for the T. This is a water ripple, which represents N. You got the F right here for the horn viper. And you got IR, which is biliteral for IR right here. So people can know how to do that for the glyphs when they see it. But if you don't know what this is doing and what it is saying, then you are handicapped. Period. So it's the equivalent of playing a two-dimensional game versus virtual reality. And me personally, I would rather be in virtual reality. I would rather be in the game than playing a two-dimensional game on a board, on a coffee table, like Monopoly or something. That's the difference. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of make all those points in answer that question. So hopefully I answered the question though, and gave examples with this example with it. All right, so hopefully that was understood. Hopefully y'all follow. Y'all follow me. Let me know if y'all follow.
Yeah, that was a really, really good example, especially in a sense that if you're the type of person that looks up words in the dictionary all the time, some words like this can be problematic, to find. And like you said, the dictionaries don't have all the different variations of a word. So grammar really, really is essential.
Okay, I want to show this too because this was asked not yesterday but another time, and I feel that it's would be good to share this right now. And this is the issue of what the ancient Egyptians called themselves. All right. And what a lot of people are aware of now is that we have this word remech or rimage. And in all the years that I've been teaching the language, and people will hear me say, Ro or Rodney Kemet for the name of the language, Sesh Netcher for the name of the writing system, Sesh Nishat for the demotic, and these are indigenous terms. And so when it comes to the name of the ancient Egyptians, people usually want to know, like, well, what did they call themselves? Because I know they didn't call themselves the Egyptians, and I say they call themselves the Remech, Remechni Kemet or Remech Kemet, the people of Kemet. And the word Remech itself, it means people or humans. And it's a post I just recently did today to explain, what an ethnonym is, and what an ethnic group is, and how an ethnic group come to realize that they are in fact an ethnic group, and things like that. So I did a post about that. So I'm not going to go into that, but I wanted to share something, because when we look up the word remech in these dictionaries and things, no one ever really sees the M part of the word remech. Okay, so let me see. Do I have a picture of it, just so you all would be able to see what I'm talking about? Give me a moment. I know y'all probably looking at a blank screen right now. Give me 1 second. Let me share. I want to share an image of it. Give me 1 second, 1 second, 1 second here. If I could find it. Nope, that's not it. It's in here. It's this one right here. Okay. Let me bring it over here. Remech. Try to do this quickly, y'all. And I'm not being quick enough, apparently.
Okay, take your time. So while you're doing that, JMO X says, I have let the ancestors speak by Ankh-Mira. I guess it goes deep on the grammar. I have yet to finish it. So yeah, that's one of a really good book as well. We kind of went over it as well, while going over the grammar.
Okay, yep. I'm trying to find a picture of the very word image. I have it on the just don't have it on this set of slides right here that I have up. But I'm gonna find it.
You trying to find the one without the M?
Yeah, the
Is that
glyphs that I have,
okay?
the glyphs that I have for it.
Okay.
If you happen to have it, then by all means.
I'll try to see if I can find, because I remember the name of the file. I put that in either.
And it's crazy. I know everybody goes through this. When you're actually not looking for something, it's all in your face. And then when you need it, it just runs from you. It's almost like these things have a life of their own.
What are the specific glyphs you're looking on it, just so I
The
can
word the
see?
word image. The word image.
Okay.
Yep, just the regular word image. And I have it like in all these places, but I just don't have it up right now. But yeah, if you have it, if you can get to it faster, that'd be great.
No, I was trying to see if I could just create it real quick. If those
Yeah, that's
specific.
fine. Yep. No, but
Okay,
just the normal way.
so let me do that.
All right, in the meantime, so I was gonna share that because I want people to see it. Oh, you know what? Boy, I have it.
Oh, okay. So I just finished creating it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So I was just putting it in a slide real quick.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll share this. Let me see, where is that, and share window that. Oh, wait a minute. C2. Oh, I missed a glyph. There we go.
You got it?
Yes. So I'll just share right now.
All right.
There you go. Is it up?
You have it up? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you all see that on the screen? Hopefully everyone sees that on the screen. And so now back to what I was trying to share here. So let me get back to where I was. Okay. So now what you're looking at on the screen is the typical way that you'll find the word remage in the glyphs. And so what you see is the open mouth, which represents the consonant R. Then you have the tethering rope underneath it, which it represents the consonant. We transliterate it as a capital T in manual decodage, or you'll see a dotted T in diacritic markings. But we'll pronounce it as a ch sound, like in church. So you have the ch, that's where you get the remech sound. Then you have the seated man or kneeling man, squatting woman, and 3 strokes. But what's missing here is the M. And a lot of people ask about that. Why do we say remage when there's no M there? And so what I always have to explain to people is that certain words, just like in English, we have abbreviated forms of words in English. Like we don't spell out street all the time. We put ST and then a period. We don't spell out the word doctor all the time. We put DR. We don't spell out Mr., but we put MR, and so on and so forth. So we understand abbreviations, and we know what it means when we see it. Well, likewise, in ancient Egypt, the scribes use short forms of different words at times, and then they use long forms at other times. It depends on maybe the context. It depends on the material that's used, whether it's and the space that's available. So all those different factors come into play. And over time, some shortened forms of words will become standardized to them. In other words, the way that it's written. And remage is one of them. And so you'll see it most of the time like this, that you see it on the screen. Okay. But there is an M. And I believe somebody in the chat from a previous video, I don't know if anyone is here that asked that question. If you're in the chat now and you're one of the people that asked that question, because I remember somebody asked the question recently, and I did a post on it because of their question. But just to show and go over it with you all now, I want to show you all a facsimile of a primary text that shows the word remage spelled all the way out, just to show you all that it does exist, and that we're not crazy. Like all of us are not crazy for saying remage. And then in the years that I've been doing this, some people tried to argue that as well, and they just argue really for no reason. So I just try to inform everybody. But anyway, here is the so I'm gonna take that down. Let me get. So here is a text or a facsimile, or somebody actually reproduced the glyphs that are on a monument that's now in Brussels, Belgium, I guess, museum or whatever the case is. But if you see here in row number 5, line 4, but row number 5, you'll see the word remech spelled all the way out. You have the open mouth, you have the what they call a half blunt tethering rope. This stands for the letter M. So you see it fully spelled out, remech. So if you ever run into a conversation and somebody doubts that the word remech is actually the word remech, then make sure you reference them to this. Okay, so you can take a screenshot and you know, inform them about that. Now, if you want to know where this is from, you know, where, because like I said, this is a drawing, this is a handwritten reproduction of it, but it actually comes from it comes from a statue from official of the Amun temple, and the official's name is Neb Nefir, but it's from the actual temple of Prince Waj Mesu, and this was in Thebes, okay, or Waset. Remember, Amun was the main deity in Waset, Thebes. So when you say Temple of Amun and you mention Amun, most likely, you know, people are talking about Thebes. What people know is Thebes or Waset. All right. So that's just an FYI. Figured I'd share that while we're all doing this. Okay. So hopefully everybody understands that. So the word remech actually does exist, because that's what it boils down to. People were doubting that the very word remech is even there. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it's like that's rich, that and rich. But I think both Wujao, sorry, both Jehudi and Jemo X made good points. So what was I saying? Wujao? Jehudi said something about can't fit the owl over there without messing the quadrant, because it has to be aesthetically pleasing, and that's why you see sometimes you know, for the M, which the owl would function as, they, you know, switch it to the other M, which was the blunt half. And then with what Gemo X was saying with abbreviations, when some things are omitted, you know, for us, like you said, it can stump us. But if you remember the exercise that we were doing yesterday, where some words are taken out of a sentence, but we could still make it, so it will just be fine. When you know it, you know it. It might stump other people as well. You know, like some people will just argue that ain't it. But when you know, then you know that that's what it is. You know, whether something is omitted, you can still see the patterns and understand it and the context.
Yep. So that's what I was highlighting. Jamo, JMO X says that's what stumps me sometimes, the abbreviation. So yeah. And see, all of this comes over time. Like once you start just getting used to it and you put time into it and you start transliterating text, you get used to things, you'll recognize, like even the very word unk, like the popular phrase people use, Uncle Jasaneb, that is usually written with just 3 glyphs: the unk, the drill, and the folded cloth. And because I think you hear background.
Sorry.
So yeah, and so you just see those 3 glyphs, but then other times you see it spelled out. You see the unk spelled out with the triliteral unk that everybody knows what it looks like. Then with the water ripple and what they call a placenta, spelling it all the way out, and even the word seneb, etc. So these are just things that you'll start to be, you know, become familiar with and everything. All right. So Babylon Dunn says, I don't agree with the owl not enough space theory. Yeah, that's fine. See, yeah, but Babylon Dunn, you have to understand that everyone's entitled to agreeing with things and disagreeing with things, but you have to base it in something. And I will tell you this, that in ancient Egypt, the scribes, when it came to the birds, any word that has birds in it, the scribes had a challenge for those. It was challenging for words that had birds in it. And so bird glyphs are become problematic depending on if the text is going to be in rows or columns, etc., etc. Because aesthetics was very, very important to the scribes. They did not like a lot of blank space between these glyphs, and so they would transpose like a bread loaf behind the bird or in front of the bird when it's supposed to be behind the bird, and vice versa. So a good one is maybe the word mut for the word mother, where the bread loaf is in front of the vulture instead of behind it where it would normally be the way it's spelled. So birds present a problem. And remember, to the ancient Egyptian scribes, they carved these glyphs based on three categories based on their sizes. You have tall and narrow, low and broad, and then you have small. And so they will combine two small glyphs side by side. And if the word has a low and broad glyph with it, they'll put it under or above it. But if there was a tall and narrow glyph, they will put that on its own next to it. And so these things have to be understood before anyone can agree or disagree about any owl or enough space theory and things like that. Because once you understand that, then it's nothing to disagree with. Emicat, if you could share your screen again with that rematch there, or I'll just do I'll get a better one real quick. I just want to show an actual text here. So here is an example. I'll just put this up. I think this should be good enough. Or is it? Yeah. Okay, now this is a reproduction, so I just, just for the sake of showing it to you all and me being fast, don't want to have a lot of time of silence here. So I'm going to show this on the screen. And I don't know why this keeps coming up. Okay, you all should be able to see that. And you can right now. Okay, so I want everybody to notice. Now, this is a actual, obviously, it should be obvious to y'all that this is a reproduction here. This is not the actual a picture of the tomb, but it's reproduced accurately. And you have columns of text right here. And if you look at this column right here, you will see the word remech here. You have the open mouth. You have the tethering rope, the kneeling man, squatting woman, and the three strokes. This is exactly what Emicat had on the screen before. It's facing to the right, but it has the word remech here. Now you see the space, and you see that the glyphs are all in columns. There is no space for an owl to go where this word is, remech. So is plenty of times where, because of the factors that I mentioned, that they will either omit glyphs or they'll use a variation of the glyph, because this blunt half that you see right here and that you see right here are also representative of M, the consonant M, just like you have here. Keperena here. So there are alternative ways to spell these things, but as I said with remech, it became a convention to them to spell it a certain way over time. All right, so just so everyone is aware of that. Okay, Ramza asked a question. Birds was huge in my household growing up. We trained parakeets. They flew free around the house during the day in my entire childhood. Oh wow, okay. That's a bit different. That's definitely a bit different. You had birds flying around where everybody else had like pet cats and stuff. You had like a flock of birds. Okay. Okay, off work. Brother Mathis. Okay, well, if you don't mind, could you elaborate on the alphabet that was used and how is an alphabet attached to symbols? Okay. The ancient Egyptians did not technically have an alphabet, but we call the monoliterals a pseudo alphabet. And what that means is that because to us, an alphabet are single characters representing single sounds in English, like the English alphabet A to Z. And the monoliteral glyphs, and what that means are glyphs that represent a single consonant, hence the word mono meaning one, a single consonant representation. There are glyphs for that, and they're 24 in number. Depends on who you talk to. Some say 24, some say 25 because you have the double reed leaf. And then you have the alternates for the N. But they're 24, generally speaking. Okay? And those monoliterals could serve as a pseudo alphabet. In other words, every Egyptian word theoretically could have been spelled with just those 24 to 25 glyphs. Every single word could have theoretically been spelled that way, but that's not how they did it. So it wasn't used that way, so we can't say it's an alphabet technically for what an alphabet is. Okay. So now when you asked how is the alphabet attached to symbols, I'm going to assume that you're asking about sounds to symbols, not necessarily alphabet, because an alphabet itself are a bunch of symbols. So maybe if you clarify that for me before I try to answer that. All right, so just want you to do that. I think Emicat has something to share.
Yeah, I was just creating those for was it Ramza that was saying can you see how the birds wouldn't fit? Like once you involve the birds in such kind of glyphs, because it depends with the shapes of the glyphs and the amount of space they take, then and then it would just ruin the quadrant block, like Jehudi was saying. So if you see in this first section here, like if you put the owl in it, it's rarely stacked. Like with this kind of glyphs, you don't stack tall. Tall, narrow glyphs, you don't really stack them because they actually fill the whole quadrant block from top to bottom, the whole rows from top to bottom. So you wouldn't be stacking them, and that's why they will have to stand on their own. And once you start doing that, then you're forced to separate all this, and then you have all this taking way too much space, like Buja was saying. And then when you stack them, obviously that's not what we don't like I said, you don't want to stack them even when you stack them, you ruin the whole aesthetics, which was what the scribes strive to do with these inscriptions. And that's why you see, like, instead of using the owl like they did here, instead of having to force it and then stack this tall signs, then they use the variation, which is the blind half here instead. Or sometimes they just omit it, because omission was something that the scribes did a lot with a lot of the glyphs. So everything for the aesthetics, as long as the pattern still is recognizable.
Okay. So hope everybody followed that example and everything. So anything else? It's a Q&A. So we got 6 minutes left. We are almost at the 2.5 hour mark. I don't want to make this video too long. Unless, you all come up with some good, some interesting and provoking questions and things like that about the language. I'm going to assume that everybody's following what's, the points that are being made. And that's the most important part, that you all are following. And like, again, for those who are tune in, we're having this Q&A open discussion. We're going to do this after every build session. So last night we had an actual more of a kind of teaching moment where we were going over how the writing system operates. And so we're going to keep, that going. We're going to keep building on that. But we're going to have these open discussions because people may have questions about it and things like that. And we don't want all the videos to be too long, so we cut them up like that. We have the teaching moment or sharing of information, then we have a separate video, which is more of an open discussion, kind of hone in on what was talked about, but we can kind of branch out in the neighborhood. So we want to stay in the house, but we'll go out in the neighborhood as well. All right, we just not gonna go in a whole nother city and everything. But Babylon Dunn says, do the other words on the Ramses the third tomb fit the rectangular form? Yes, they actually do. They fit the form. There's no getting around the scribal convention of these quadrate. What Imicat mentions the word quadrate blocks. And so these quadrate blocks is what dictates the spacing that the scribes did and the choice of glyphs. Because, like, for example, the third person plural pronoun for the word them or their is the word sin, and it's usually spelled with a folded cloth. But if the text is in a column orientation and it's a tight space, they will use the door bolt for the S sound instead of the folded cloth, because the folded cloth is a tall, narrow glyph instead of a low, broad glyph. Okay, and so these choices were consciously made by the scribes. If you study the scribal convention, and there's a lot of books on this, so that's why I said we have to be informed when we make our attempt to make our minds up and agree or disagree on different things. But there's a lot of things, and just the example I showed, this example right here that I showed, and this is one of a few examples I could show. This is just something that I could show right now and quick. But the fact that this is spelled out all the way here shows and proves that the word remech is the actual word. That the other forms of that word is an abbreviated form. And we could do that with a lot of different words where it's an abbreviated form. All right, so just hope that everyone understands that. All right, so let's look for any other questions. So Brother Matt says, so you're saying it's sounds and not an alphabet that's attached to the symbols. How are we sure we have the right sounds to make words out of these symbols? Yeah, well, first we have to start by understanding that the glyphs are a writing system, and a writing system is the visual representation of speech, which are sounds. That's the purpose of them. So now, what sounds go with which glyphs is we track that out. We could track that out. So, for example, in an alphabet that we do know, such as the Greek alphabet, we know that the Greek alphabet is used to write a much later Egyptian language that we know as Coptic. And so there are words in Coptic that are identical to the words in previous dialects or languages in ancient Egypt, such as Middle Egyptian. So if I take the word, for example, the word nefer, which means beautiful or good in Middle Egyptian, in Coptic we have the same word nofre. Nofre. So you have the N consonant, the F consonant, and the R consonant. And you can systematically compare all of these things to confirm and verify that the sounds are correctly assigned to the glyphs. You can do that, which is done like ages ago, and many confirmations over the past 100 years. And you can look at how Egyptian words are written in foreign languages, such as Akkadian, when ancient Egypt sent diplomatic letters back and forth from for different to different countries in their language, such as during the Amarna period. You have the Amarna letters where you have Egyptian and I guess Akkadian being exchanged back and forth, where you have Egyptian words written in the Akkadian text and vice versa. So you can use that to verify, because these are contemporary situations. You could use that to verify, and it has been done, and it's been confirmed many times over the past 100 years or so of Egyptology, etc. All right, so I'm just giving you some quick answers to how we know that the what sounds are going with certain glyphs. All right, so hopefully that will answer your question. Babylon says a square is a quadrant which equals a rectangle. Yes, I'm familiar with some scribal conventions. However, I do not agree with their analysis. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Everybody has a right to disagree. But I think your agreement or disagreement will definitely not change the set of facts, the reality that we actually see. All right. If because I don't know what the disagreement is in the word remage, at least, because the word remage is what the word remage is, and that's what the intended meaning is, not so much to have artwork and so on and so forth like that. All right. So anything else? Just looking through anything else here. If not, let me see. What do we have here? We have a lot of glyphs here, a lot of different things arranged in different ways, and so on. Just want to see what sticks out. What sticks out? What sticks out? What sticks out here that I could share. No. Oh, what I could say about this picture. This is something random, y'all. I just looked at the picture. I don't know if it was yesterday or maybe in our Facebook group. And I will remind you all, you definitely have to join our Facebook group. That's definite. I mean, if you want to build and talk, because we go live, but obviously Facebook group is always active, always going on. People post, ask questions, comments, responses, and things like that. But I want to point out right here, how many of you all think that these are white women in this image? Oh, let me take his comment down. Do y'all think that these are white women in this image? And by white women, I'm saying, well, I'm just gonna leave the question like that. Do y'all think this is white women in this image? Okay, JMO said nope. All right. Okay, well, just to be kind of quick, people will look at something like this and they will assume that these women are white women, and they're not. They'd be wrong. The women that you see that my arrow is pointing to are professional mourners in ancient Egypt. And they were painted in a pale way with long black hair, and they would pull their hair. They would have their hands in a certain gesture, and they would pull on their hair. And this is a reflection in the culture where it's known among the Egyptians in the different myths and things where Osset and Nebuchadnezzar cried over the death of Wasir, and they would pull their hair. So Osset and Nebuchadnezzar are the original mourners that these women in this picture are patterning themselves after as a ritual. So this is a ritual of mourning, and even to this very day, at funerals, even in the United States, at funerals, you can actually hire professional mourners, people that will come to your funeral and cry on behalf of the deceased person and things like that. It actually happens. And so it's in many cultures that this occurs, but ancient Egypt, they had professional mourners there, and they would be painted pale and with the long black hair and things like that. This is from the Papyrus of Ani, the Book of the Dead of Ani, this image. And what you're looking at is the funerary procession of Ani coming from his place of residence to the tomb on the right. His residence is outside of this image, but you see them basically marching in procession going towards the tomb on the right hand side. All right. And while I'm here, just to show you how crazy the conflict community has been and still is, very much so, I'm going to blow a portion up real quick, see if I can. Well, let me just point to it. If you all look at this right here, I have actually seen people who make a claim that this woman here that's kneeling down is giving this mummy fellatio. Like, really, that was a big thing in the conflict community. And I'm sure the videos still exist where people were claiming that this woman is giving this mummy fellatio just because the way it's drawn and the angles and things like that. And that's like just utterly crazy, because the woman is not even in front of, if this was three-dimensional, the woman is not actually in front of the mummy. She's on the side of it. But because they drew it in profile, aspective view, it looks like she's in front of it, but she's actually not. She's on the side of it, facing the mummy from the side. And it's little things like that, which is why I say people need to be informed and not be uninformed and ignorant of these things, but then get online and try to argue. You would have to study the scribal art, the canons that they use, aspective artwork versus perspective and things like that to even know these things. And going back to an earlier question about shortcuts, somebody asked about microwaving and shortcutting, and I call it microwaving, but shortcuts, that's why people can't have shortcuts. I'm gonna tell you, a lot of the arguments online that you see in reference to Egypt, most of those arguments are due to ignorance, which means that they're completely unnecessary and they could be avoided. You know how much progress we would make if people who accepted their own lack of knowledge in something would just to take a back seat and just take the time to learn. We would just get so much further in these discussions. And so anyway, that's pretty much all I had. And I think, we kind of ran our course with the questions and things. MK, you have any? Oh, I'm just looking at the any comments. Oh, she said, why? Peace to Mika. Why nobody hitting the link and try to read those glyphs? Oh yeah. So Tamika asks, was that their real hair? Most likely it wasn't, because there are images of it being really long, and they're pulling it at that. It's like a ritual, and so and then we definitely understand that a lot of the women in those times wore wigs, and if you're a professional mourner, it's you play the part. you play the part. It's not something that's like just regular. It's like an actual event with the profession and things. So Ramza says professional mourners, they do that in theater sometimes with cry performances. Okay, yep. But that's true. I think they were dark skinned, made them look what make them look like what we call Indians. Oh, with that kind of look, yeah. But so I guess my point for just sharing that, because one, I had the picture up anyway, but to share that is that colors, for people to look at Egypt and argue over colors is really silly. And a lot of people in Egyptology and the study of Egypt itself, they don't waste time with that, because it's just silly, because there's an understanding that colors have metaphoric associations and not literal ones. And colors are used as categorizing tools, ontological tools. And we do it today. We do it today. All right, we do it today. I'm gonna keep going down. I don't see any questions per se, just some comments. JMO says the scribes didn't have space to move her back. That's a hard piece to create. Yeah, but not even that. It's just that the artwork is called aspective. Like the Egyptians did their carvings in aspective, what's called expective artwork, and that's totally different from perspective. So that's why you see two left shoulders or two right hands, and you see the full eye, even though it's in profile view and stuff. I did a whole video on that, as it relates to the yoga positions that people do today. So check out that video. I don't know if MEK can post a link to that, but it's on our archives.
Yeah, I was also trying to find at least a picture just to show that that form of of art. There's, I think, like one with the pool, and where you see everybody's seeing that, where you have a pool and then you have trees, and the trees look like they're like just lying on the side of the pool and things like that. If I can
Yeah.
find it before we close, I'll show it. But that's that's just the way of articulating objects in a space, as opposed to perspective, which came later, in where you look, is the art is represented more in the form as we see it and things like that. But that was a different form of art back then.
Yep. Mika, if you had a different question that I didn't see, you can repeat it. If that's towards me. Brother Master says, on that statue of Queen T, was that a wig or something on her head and not an afro? I would have to relook at that, because I mean I've seen so many of these statues and stuff, and spoke about them, and I don't want to get them confused, because I know with Queen T, that particular bust of Queen T, that bust that they always show, a lot of people use that in the conversation about race and stuff like that of the ancient Egyptians. And that whole entire conversation and topic is really has taken its course. It's old and it's tired, but I'm aware of it, and things like that. Malhapri, Queen T, Thuya, and Yuya are another ones, and who else that's used in these conversations? Oh, and Ahmos Nefertari, as well as Mentu Hotep. Everybody I just mentioned, I guarantee you, anyone who is knee deep, headstrong in the conversation about the race of the ancient Egyptians and the blackology stuff, I guarantee you're going to hear the names of the people I just said: Ahmos Nefertari, Malhapri, Thuya, Yuya, Queen T, and Mentu Hotep. Guaranteed, you're gonna hear those names. You're gonna hear those names right there. Um, but so unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer your question. I have to relook at that because I don't want to get mixed up if the bust itself is a wig or not. If that's what you're asking me. Yep. So I don't want to tell you wrong. All right. So, oh, Mika says, "Oh, you did answer my questions. You just reading the comments late." Oh, okay, thanks. Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. I'm behind a bit. Let's see. Yes, sir. Yes, sir is a scammer. No such thing as comedic yoga. He based those postures off of impossible body positions from the walls when he didn't know about effective art. Okay. And here's the picture Emicat has put up right there.
Yep.
See, that's a perfect example. You want to explain it?
Oh, okay. Yes, I can do that. So here you have a pool, the center, the blue part, that is a pool. And obviously you see there's a boat and people in it. But then on the side here you see trees, more trees, and you also see people tending to stuff and whatnot. Now, obviously, this is not reality. Where this is like if it's a pool of water, and then on the side, the people look like they're actually lying down while working, lying down, and then the trees are, like also laid down, and all that kind of weird stuff. But back then, that was the format. The point is to pack as much information as possible, mostly the relevant information that they want to portray, and they put it in that particular piece. So you're not supposed to look at it literally. That's just letting you know that it's a pool. There's a pool of water. There's a garden, and then there's people tending to it. And that was just absolutely normal. So everybody understood it for what it is in that sense. So even the stuff with the yoga, where you see the weird position, one of the side eye is like on the side of the head. The whole point is to let you know it's a person, putting the features, the best way to represent the features is like putting it in profile, and then portraying the eyes so that you know that the person is looking and things like that. So the whole point is just to pack information in a format as opposed to making it be the reality as you see it.
Okay, excellent. So I want to reiterate something. Um, let me just see. Take that off the screen a bit. Okay. Just want to reiterate something. So we're going to wrap it up, but I want to drive this point home. Really, really drive this point home because this is a very, very big, probably one of the top 3 biggest mistakes that beginners have an issue with when they're learning the Egyptian language and the writing system. Okay, and that is our natural tendency to look at pictures and think that the picture is conveying the picture content to us as its meaning. So, for example, if we see a picture of an elephant, that's what it means. What you see is what you get. You see a picture of a crocodile, you think that it means crocodile. And you see a picture of a flower, it means flower, et cetera, right? That's our natural instinct because you're drawing the object, right? So that's normal. But when you do that, those are called pictographs, picture writing. And picture writing is not writing. It's not a writing system. You don't have a writing system until the rebus principle is invoked, and now you have symbols or pictures that represent sounds within a language. Okay? Always remember that. Now, the point I want to drive home is because it's natural for us to do that, and it's so different than English. Our alphabet in English is, A to Z, are not pictures of anything. Regardless of the original origin of some of these characters could have come from pictures at one point in time, the alphabet as we know it today is not pictures of anything. Like the letter B is not a picture of anything. The letter C, nothing, so on and so forth. They're not images of objects. So we don't even experience this today. But so when we look at the Egyptian writing, the Sesh Medew Netcher, the hieroglyphic writing, where our minds are thrown off because we're literally looking at pictures and we know what they are. Like you see a picture of an alligator. Okay, we know that's an alligator, or a crocodile. We know that's a crocodile. So it throws us off and we think that the picture is trying to convey the meaning of crocodile. That's the meaning of what we're looking at. All right. So the point here that I'm driving home is that is not how the writing system works. Although they're pictures, these glyphs can function in one of three ways, and one of the ways is as representations of sounds and not the pictures of the objects they represent. So just to reiterate and drive the point home, I'm going to reshare my screen. And because some of y'all may have just come in and watch this and watching this. So I'm showing you an actual ancient Egyptian word, and I want you to see how it's spelled in the glyphs. And the top glyph right here, if y'all can see I hope y'all can see my cursor. The top glyph here is a phallus, and the bottom glyph is a mouth, an open mouth, not just a mouth, but an open mouth. And so if we were to just allow our minds to interpret this pictorially, meaning what the picture is representing is the same as its meaning, then we will walk away with a whole big mess of interpretations. Because I asked the chat earlier, and I'm gonna ask the chat again for those who didn't see this earlier. If you were to see a phallus and a mouth, like how you see it right here, what would you assume is trying to be is being implied here? What is being implied with a phallus and an open mouth at that? What's being implied there? You all tell me. I'm only laughing because I saw the comment earlier. Mika had made a comment about the Papyrus of Ani when people claimed that the woman in front of the statue is given the mummy fellatio. And so you best believe that the same people that would make that claim on that text, they would look at this and say the same thing. They would say, "Oh, the Egyptians are the Egyptians are not good. They promoting fellatio again. You have a phallus and an open mouth and whatnot." So y'all can see how silly that could get really, really, really quick. Really quick. So to drive the point home, and then we're gonna close out. This is not how the writing system works. The phallus and the mouth are in no way, shape, or form conveying the meaning of the picture itself. These two glyphs are only there to represent sounds in the language. The phallus represents two consonants. It's a biliteral. It represents an M and a T. The open mouth represents a consonant R. So when you see it, you have meter. That's what it's there for. And the word meter in the language means to attest, to inform, or to tell. It's a verb in this instance. And telling and informing and attesting has nothing to do with a phallus in the mouth, literally. Anyway. And I can go down. Look at this one. Meter, to be content, to be satisfied. What's this trying to say? So a phallus and a mouth together is it means to be content and satisfied. I mean, see, you see how silly it could get. It could get real silly and raunchy at the same time. Like, and you could just make up stuff like, oh, okay, to be satisfied. Oh, to be satisfied. Okay, I see. You have a phallus in the mouth. Okay, satisfaction. Oh, okay, I see what the Egyptians are trying to say. Testimony, same thing. Anyway, so hopefully that point is made. That's not how the writing system works. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that speak about Egypt and they're arguing about Egypt that they don't know how the writing system works, and they will argue about things like this. They will argue about if this word has to do with water, then if the word means water, then how come this glyph don't have anything associated with water? See, it don't mean anything because this word means to attest. And if I would ask the same thing, well, how come there's no glyphs right here that means attest? Well, that's not how it works. It don't have to. These stand in just for the consonants. The consonants right here. Okay, so anyway, hopefully everybody got that.
That's how Athenaeus Kisher did his thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. Yep. So hopefully everybody got that. Yep. So on that last point, because that's very important, y'all. That's very important. That's why I reiterate it. So do me this favor. If y'all understand what I just said and you get it, type 1. And we're gonna close out. I'll be satisfied. At least I'll be satisfied. If y'all got what I just said, type 1. If you got what I said, type 1. Yep, see, everything got it. You see how crazy it would be? A phallus, open mouth, and water? What's going on? You see how crazy it is? But let me know that you understand. Because nobody got really got on the panel today. But let me know that you understand. That's a very, now, it's funny. It's funny because I could tell jokes for days about that, but I'm trying to keep it neat. But that's a very important point. That's a very, very important point on understanding all of this stuff. That the glyphs lose their pictorial meaning and they only are used for their phonetic value and not their picture value. So make sure y'all spread the word because a lot of people need to know this. Because I was in a conversation just the other day when somebody was asking me about the kingdom's name of Kemet. And I'm going to give y'all an example. The kingdom's name Kemet is spelled with an I6 glyph. Like I'm going to show y'all. This could be the very last thing. I know I just said that before. Everybody knows that my last thing is not really the last thing. But I want to show you all the conversation. And now hopefully you all will see, based on what I just showed you all, how crazy it is. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a glyph. I'm going to grab the glyph by itself because I have so many slides from it, and I just want to show you this. Okay. Wow, this is not even the glyph I want. So let me go down. Excuse me. Pardon me, y'all. Bear with me. Here we are right here. So I want to show you all this right here. Nope, not that. This. Okay. So I promise y'all this will be the last thing. Last point, at least. Last point made. Unless one of y'all hop on the panel. Okay. Now can I make this big? Yep. Okay, can y'all see that? Oh, I'm not even sharing. Pardon me. Share my screen again. Okay, so can you all see this word here? I'm sure you can. It's really big. Okay, um this is one of the names of the kingdom of ancient Egypt, Kemet. What you see on the screen is one of the ways that the place name for the kingdom of ancient Egypt was spelled. So here you have a biliteral glyph. Gardner code is I6. You have a owl, which is G17, Gardner code G17. You have a raised bread loaf, which is Gardner code X1. Then you have Gardner code N23, which is a irrigation canal. All right. It deals with irrigation, the presence of water. All right. So in a conversation that I was having the other day, I was asked, outside of this last glyph, which is a classifier, outside of that, I was asked what these two glyphs that's in front of this classifier, where does it say water? Where's the water association? And now, based on what I just explained to you all, and the point I've been driving home today and yesterday, is that that's not how the glyphs work. It doesn't need to show any association with water whatsoever. These two glyphs right here, actually these three glyphs right here, the first three glyphs are there for their phonetic value, not their picture value. So if you believe this is a crocodile's tail or even a burnt charcoal, it doesn't even matter, because it's only there to represent a K and an M consonant. The owl represent M, and it is complementing the M in the KM, which is why you don't see KMM. Then the bread loaf represents the T, consonant T. Notice that this has nothing, nobody asked me, or in the conversations that I've had, nobody asked me, well, how come this word don't mean bread? Or how come this word don't mean bird or owl? But in the reverse, I've people who try to argue these points, the blackologists argue these points. They ask, well, what does this word have to do with, what glyphs have to do with water? Mind you, and they ask you about these glyphs, knowing good and well that this last glyph, which is the classifier, which does tell you have a semantic value to it, it classifies it as a type of land that deals with water. Irrigated land. Irrigated means it has water, access to water. So this stuff is, see, I'm telling you, when you actually know and understand how all these things work, a lot of the arguments will just seem so crazy and silly, and it will truly be seen as a waste of time. And that's how I see it. And y'all have to understand that the arguments that I've been seeing about anything surrounding Black and Egypt, a lot of those arguments are just completely silly. It truly is. But you won't know that based on the level of your knowledge. Like, you can't know how wrong you are until you know enough. And that's the challenge that we have. That's why we're doing this series here. We're just going, we're back in teaching mode. Just so y'all know, we're back in teaching mode. So that's it, y'all. And MK, you have any last closing?
Well, that was good. And I hope everyone goes back to the show that we did yesterday, which this was an open forum for. That was great. And obviously we're going to do more of that. And I'm just glad that we've come a long way from all the arguments that people used to have about Kemet or debates back in the day, homosexuality, fellatios, all that kind of stuff. We have come a long way. It's still slow, but yeah. So, but this is good. That's it, really.
Yep. So this question right here is speaks to the point. And so Babylon done. I'm not quite sure if you understood the whole points tonight then, because this question is a question that stems from not understanding what I said really, because, and I'll just read it. You said, is the so-called Kim glyph a crocodile tail or charred wood or riverbank or no mound? If you do not know, then how do you know the glyph is not Kim? See, that's the point. It doesn't matter if the I6 glyph is a crocodile tail, charred wood, a riverbank, or no mound. That I6 glyph in this word is only functioning to represent consonants in the language. That's it. It's only there to represent consonants in the language. No different than how we spell our words. And that's the point I'm making. Because these are pictures of items, our mind leans toward trying to interpret it based on the picture value. Like, that's a bird right there. So our mind wants to think bird, 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 and not the letter M, 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 or the sound M, 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 the sound. So we want to think bird and not the sound M. So it doesn't matter. All right. So it certainly doesn't even matter. All right. So with that, I don't see anything else anybody saying. So there we have it. So listen, I appreciate everybody tuned in. We've been going for 3 hours, and so this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to do videos that's really sharing information, and we're going to try to keep those videos short. But then we're going to have follow-up videos where it's open Q&A and open discussion like this, where we can go longer. So this is 3 hours long. It could even go longer, but I think people will start reaching for questions now if we stay live. But that's how we're going to do it. We're going to share information, try to keep it short, concise, and then we'll open up in a separate live for discussions and Q&As and things like that, because we want to keep it home, but we'll venture out in the neighborhood a little bit, but we don't want to go into a whole nother city, another state. So the Blackology conversation, if people want to stay stuck on that and allow themselves to be retarded, slowed down and stopped in progression, then that is perfectly fine. Everyone is entitled to do what they want. But if you want to share information or have information shared with you in going towards a progressive learning process, then that's the things that we're going to be doing going forward. And whatever comes up in there is perfectly fine. But the same old entertaining back and forth conversations about things that's been covered so many times is just really, really silly in terms of progress. It's not silly for entertainment. And I get it. If you subscribe to Netflix and you pay your $14.99 a month and you done watched everything on Netflix, of course, you need to be entertained. So why not go to YouTube and be entertained? I get it. If you run out of things to see, so you want to be entertained. Nothing wrong with that. All right. But just want to say peace to everyone. And yeah, I'm gonna save your comments, Babylon Done, for next time. But for now, I'm gonna say Shemem Hotep. Hope everyone is safe and is in good health, and I'll see y'all next time. Shemem Hotep.